Hey guys, this is Pat from Database Comics. First off, I want to wish a happy new year to everyone who is celebrating the new year around the world and in America especially. I want to thank all the fans who have followed Database Comics so far, from the past year to the previous year and on to the new year. I hope you guys will keep enjoying our content. Hope you guys will come back for more. Today we have, to kick off the new year, we have a feed by Batman in JLA Annual. It's probably one of my favorite Batman feeds just because it shows just how smart and creative Batman actually is. And to note, he actually didn't just perform the feat on his own, he had help from Martian Manhunter. So let's get into it. So the feed is from JLA Annual 3 in Volume 1. And as you can see, we have the social share buttons at the top. And I filed the feed in the theme for evolution. So here is the character image for Batman, and then Batman, Bruce Wayne, and then you continue with. So what happened in JLA Annual 3? In JLA Annual 3 titled JLA 8 Part 1 of 8 Guerrilla Warfare, Batman performs an intelligence feat. Gorilla Guard subconsciously manipulates the Gorilla City militia into detonating a Gorillabomb that turns the Justice League into apes. So that's one thing, they turn the Justice League into apes. At the Watchtower, Batman, with the aid of Martian Manhunter, reverse engineers the bomb to revert the humans turned apes at the United Nations back into humans. So the question is, how much intelligence does it take for Batman to reverse engineer a Gorillabomb to revert apes into humans? So this is why I said the feat is about evolution, because we're essentially, you could say, reverse evolving apes into humans. They were originally humans. They got turned into apes by the Gorillabomb, and then now they are reverse engineering the Gorillabomb to revert humans back into apes. To revert apes back into humans. That's what happens. So here are the scans from the issue. You can see here Batman is working with, apparently Batman is not an ape. Somehow he managed to not be turned into an ape, but you can see that Martian Manhunter has been turned into an ape. So that's why it's mainly a Batman feat, because Batman was still human when it happened, but Martian Manhunter still had the ability to help move out an ape. So that shows just how smart Martian Manhunter actually is. And then they had help from Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, and they reverse engineered the bomb, which was, I think it's here, and then they used it right here, and then Karina used his ring to keep the bomb from exploding outside of the United Nations. And then here's the explosion. So let me get into the calculations for the feed. Batman and Martian Manhunter reverse engineered the Gorillabomb to revert apes to humans. We will calculate the molecular clock from chimpanzee to human in order to estimate Batman's intelligence. So in molecular biology and evolutionary biology, there is something that we call the molecular clock. Essentially, it's a way of estimating the rate of divergence or species divergence over the millions of years of evolution. So for example, we might look at the mutation rate between two different species and look at how they have diverged, to calculate how much they have diverged, the time since the divergence. So we use it to calculate the divergence time, but also the time when it happened. So we might say, okay, it happened 5 million years in the past, but we use it also to locate when it happened. So I actually looked into an article about the mutation rate between chimpanzee and human, and it's actually called a speciation event. So we're supposed to say that we know that between humans and chimps are some of our most related species on the evolutionary scales. I think it's about 97 to 99. I think it's 97% genetic similarity between chimps and humans. So they were trying to identify exactly when the speciation event occurred back in time, and they were using essentially the mutation rate between chimpanzee and humans. So according to an article, the mutation rate in the chimpanzee and human speciation event is 0.5% to -9 mutations per nucleotide per year. So a mutation essentially is any change in an organism's genetic code that is successfully passed down after a round of replication. So for example, you may have a gene that codes for maybe blue eyes, and that gene may have a locus, a section of its code where maybe a C is changed a cytosine. So there are four letters that four basic letters that the genetic code uses, and those letters correspond to what we call nucleotides. So there is adenine, cytosine, thymine, and guanine. So you might have a gene where maybe a cytosine is deaminated into a thymine, and this is actually one of the mutations that we're talking about, that I use in this article. So let me go further. In addition, the human genome contains 3 times 10 to the 9 nucleotides. So that's the number of letters in the genetic code, in the human genome, or the genetic code, if you will. In the article, it is hypothesized that the molecular clock is due mainly to the deamination of reaction in CpG transitions. So they are what we call in the human genome, what we call CpG islands, and these are islands that are very rich in cytosine and guanine dinucleotides. And usually, what happens is these islands tend to be what we call methylated by enzymes. Now, these are very important in diseases like cancer. So we kind of sometimes use them to know it as a marker to see if there is a potential cancer that might develop. And now here's the thing. Cytosine is usually methylated into 5-methylcytosine, and the problem is sometimes it can undergo what we call deamination reactions, and those usually tend to convert 5-methylcytosine into thymine. Here is the information in question. You can find it from CpG mutation rates in the human genome. So I found the change in free energy of the deamination reaction in CpG transitions, which is about 137,400 joules per mole, and the molecular weight of a CpG RNA dinucleotide is 588.40 grams per mole. Now, the only change between the RNA dinucleotide and the DNA dinucleotide is the 2' hydroxyl group, which is roughly about maybe 34 grams per mole, I think. because I think oxygen is about 16 grams per mole, and then hydrogen is about 2 grams per mole. So that's about 36 grams per mole. And the number of CpG dinucleotides in the human genome is more than 20 times 10 to the 6 in humans. Now, from Black Panther Duma Volume 1 we calculated that one nucleotide in the diploid eukaryote has an energetic cost of 526 times the length of the nucleotide. So that's the DNA, the nucleotide 526 times the length of the entire gene, I think. Now let's calculate the average energy requirement of the deaminations of 20 million CpG dinucleotides over 6 million years of evolution for a 70 kilogram meal. So they had already found that the molecular clock between chimpanzees and humans is about 5.7 million years, but it's usually roughly rounded up to 6 million years of evolution. So we assume that for 70 kilogram meal. So we multiply 526 times the length of the genome of the gene in question, and then you multiply by 2 since we're talking about a dinucleotide. So we multiply by 2 because it's a dinucleotide. Otherwise, we will just have dinucleotides instead. And we want to get the number, the average energy requirement for nucleotides. So we multiply times 10 to 3 times 10 to the 9th nucleotides, which is the number of nucleotides in the human genome. Then we multiply by the mutation rate, which is 0.5 times 10 to the -9 mutations per nucleotide per minute. Then we multiply by the number of CpG nucleotides. So we're talking about here nucleotides, but it's nucleotides the same because we multiply by 2 earlier. So it's 20 times 10 to the 6 CpG nucleotides, or actually dinucleotides. And then 6 times 10 to the 6 years refers to the molecular clock. So that's about 6 million years of evolution. And then we multiply by the free energy chain, 137,400 joules per mole. And then we multiply by 70,000 grams, which is the weight of a 70 kilogram meal. Then we divide by approximately the weight of a CpG nucleotide. Approximately 588 times 4.40 grams per mole. Since I didn't get an official estimate for a DNA nucleotide, I assumed for an RNA dinucleotide. And then I divide by 1 mutation, 12 months to get the years into months, 30 days, 24 hours, and 600 seconds to get into seconds. So what we get is 9.95 times 10 to the 16 joules per second. Now that's only for 1 meal. If we actually want to get the processing speed for 100 meals, we first have to multiply by 100, which is 9.95 times 10 to the 18 joules per second. Usually, what I do to kind of get an estimate of intelligence, I kind of understand intelligence as biochemical connectivity. So essentially, how well connected neurons are. So essentially, I try to convert energy or biochemical energy into bytes. So there is a conversion factor for bytes into joules per Kelvin. So 1 joule per Kelvin is about 0.125 byte. And then we have to assume that the temperature is supposed to be the temperature of the human body, which is around 310.15 Kelvin. So that's what you divide by, and then you multiply 9.95 times 10 to the 16 joules per second times 100 mils. You multiply by 0.125 byte. You get 3.85 times 10 to the 20 bars per second. Now this is not really kind of putting into perspective, putting an accurate estimate of how much intelligence it would really demand to like reverse evolution by designing or reverse engineering a machine. is mostly trying to understand the converting the amount of energy necessary to reverse evolution into the intelligence necessary to comprehend it, or at least to process it with your human brain. I think it would be much more difficult to actually understand how much intelligence would require to design or reverse engineer the Gorillabomb with your intelligence. I don't think that there is enough information from the comic, and there is not enough theory so far on how to really estimate it. One thing that has been done is to try to find the amount of information that a given system contains. So that we're talking about Shannon theory here, which is very very difficult to understand. But basically, there is an intelligence core that rates the amount of complexity or randomness that the system possesses. And the more complex or random the system is, the higher, I think, or the lower the score is. I think that's how it works. And really, I could have used that system, but it doesn't give a good rating for actually assessing the level of intelligence required to understand the process, or to understand or to modify a process, because it's only giving you the amount of randomness in the system, or the amount of information, but it's not giving you how much information your brain would need to process said information or said system. So what I'm really doing is converting the amount of energy, either biochemical energy or kinetic or potential energy, or mostly biochemical energy, since we're talking about living beings, into I guess into computer information. So bytes per second computer information, and bytes per second, because we're talking about processing speed. So essentially I'm likening the human brain to a computer, which is a very gross analogy, because usually these days back in the day they used to compare the human brain to a computer, but these days they compare more to the internet, because we're talking about not just the ability to process input and output, but we're talking about the ability to make connections between concepts. And that's what I'm going at, is making connectivities with your neurons between different concepts. Intelligence. The Gorillabomb generated at least 9.951 times 10 to the 18 joules per second of power to revert the 100 apes to humans. Batman had to generate an inventor level of intelligence. He had to process the Gorillabomb at 3.85 times 10 to the 20 bars per second. Now let's go back to the rating. So, I said in the issue, Batman reverse engineered the Gorillabomb with Martian Manhunter's help. More importantly, the bomb generated 9.95 times 10 to the 18 watts of power. Similarly, Batman processed at least the equivalent of 3.85 times 10 to the 20 bytes per second. Enough of a speciation event reverting 5.5 million years of evolution, enough to cause the extinction of the human species. Essentially, he could have caused the extinction of the human species. So, Gorilla Grodd could have caused the existence of the human species, and Batman is smart enough to cause the existence to cause the extinction of the human species at the local level. So that's very impressive. Essentially, that's very, very impressive. Intelligence fit inventor. I hope you guys like my video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and keep commenting on our articles. Okay, bye. Now articles and videos. Okay, bye.